The following program is brought to you by Rogers Anyplace TV. Enjoy exclusive content for free. Visit RogersAnyplaceTV.com.
It has been said that the history in Northern New Brunswick is a little on the bland side. There's no significant events or significant people to contribute to global history. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not the case. Northern New Brunswick has some very vibrant historical events and vibrant historical figures. Today we'll be talking about one of the greatest industrialists in the modern era who actually was born here in Bathurst. He was responsible for reinvigorating the Canadian steamship line. He was instrumental in founding hospitals, universities, dormitories within the region at various facilities, and interestingly enough, he assisted in the finding of the greatest ore strike in Canadian history. Do you know that there's a local boy who in the early 1800s rubbed shoulders with the best royal families in Europe? He was close personal friends with Sir Max Aiken, who's also known as Lord Beaverbrook. He was close personal friends with C.D. Howe, William Van Horn, just to name a few. All of these industrialists, inventors, explorers were instrumental in Canadian politics and Canadian exploration and development. Our local boy goes by the name of Sir James Hammett Dunn, born in Bathurst, St. Peter's, 1874. Sir James Dunn was knighted in 1944, becoming a baronet and taking the title Sir. Now, our Bathurst boy grew up in our area and attended the St. Luke Presbyterian Church. One of his biographers said that his hearty growth and his hearty disposition towards life was because he grew up in our region, and we're so glad he did. Now, over the years, he didn't spend a lot of time in his late years here. He traveled the world, and his financier business really was in England and in central Canada, Montreal and Toronto. But he never forgot his home. He kept a fishing lodge on the Nigadoo River, and many important influential financiers and many important and influential decisions were made right here on the Nigadoo River, late night over cocktails with some of the biggest men in the world. Now, Mr. Dunn, Sir James Dunn, was also very influential in Bathurst growth. One of the first things he actually funded was a hospital. In 1954, unfortunately, it burned down, but its location was on Valley Lords next to the senior home that we have today. That was his first funding project in his home community. Later on, because of the scare in the 50s and 60s of tuberculosis, he funded and built a sanatorium that was located very near that particular site. Now, it too remained in operation up until the Chaleur General Hospital, which is our regional hospital, was built in the late 70s. Another thing that Sir James Dunn did for our community, although not living here at the time.
Everybody come along, everybody sing a song, lighten up and carry on. It's a brand new day. Everybody come along, everybody sing a song, lighten up and carry on. It's a brand new day. It's a brand new day.
Queer people were usually not the ones at the forefront of crafting these narratives.
It's
It's not about me, it's about what I represent.
What is this lesbian thing you speak of?
You can't put two men together. You can do that. Are they? Are they? They are!
People stood up and said, this show is meaningful to me and here's why.
Refus global. Come on, that was in 48. Fear of prejudice, fear of public opinion, of total condemnation, fear of finding yourself alone without God. It's enough to make you sick to your stomach when you see all of the rewards given to appalling cruelty, the threats, the mindless excesses, to the manufacture of mountains of useless goods. Life goes on. The important thing is to be able to create. Isn't it? Refus global. That piece of paper cost me a lot. Forced to finish his days in exile. The poor artist. There. Étoile Noire.
A manifesto decrying the stifling conditions of Quebec society in the 40s was written by a group of artists led by Paul-Émile Bordua.
What's up, guys? Chris Dobson, Chris Corey here from New Brunswick's favorite sports show, Across the Line. We talk to everybody from football, golf, hockey, Hall of Fame. It doesn't matter. We always have a great time when we're here in studio, and hey, you never know who's going to drop by.
Hey, lots of celebrities, lots of New Brunswick's finest coming by the studio to talk sports, have a little fun with New Brunswick's favorite sports talk show, Across the Line, right here on Rogers TV.
This is Orange Key Tag. When you use a key tag, you protect your keys. If you lose your keys,
the finder can call the number on the back of the tag
or drop them in any mailbox.
And the Warras will return your keys to you for free. Order your key tags today at warramps.ca
and make a difference in the lives of amputees like me. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Taylor. Now, when are you going to bring in Bridge on the River Kwai? The reviews are fantastic.
Well, I'm still doing 50% business, witness for the prosecution.
We saw that last week, and we seem to be the only ones here to see this foreign movie.
Columbia Pictures again. If we don't take Kwai now, they're going to send it across the street.
Well, they can't. Wait a second. Little Elgin is half the size of the main one, isn't it? So I moved witness into Little Elgin and Kwai into the big, and I filled both. So then I tried a 5-plex in Toronto. So I said if I was the first to split an old movie house into 2 small ones, or 5, then what about 15 houses in one?
15, Nat.
Not 15? Then what about 21?
When Nat Taylor opened the world's biggest multiplex in Toronto, he changed the way the world goes to the movies.
Now, in terms of where he went and where he came from, he started out in Bathurst working at a local lumber mill that his father owned. But he quickly got the bug for financing and moved to Montreal. While in Montreal, he funded his way towards the stock market. Apparently at the time you had to provide or buy a seat onto the stock market, and from that point on, history was made. He became the founding owner of Algoma Steel and the Canadian Steam Line as well, another big company that he funded. While in Canada, these are the 2 principal ones that he took on. They became instrumental during the war. They were instrumental in keeping the British Empire strong and prosperous during the wartime, as his steel and his ships supplied a lot of the equipment necessary to keep the war effort going during World War I and World War II. How many people get to say, on the negative side, they actually know someone who died on the Lusitania? Well, Sir James Dunn, business partner, actually was on that ship that sunk in 1915 and is said to have brought the Americans into World War I. So he actually had a tie-in to that. He's from Bathurst. So Sir James Dunn eventually built a summer home in present-day St. Andrews. It still exists. If you have an opportunity to tour St. Andrews by the Algonquin Hotel, just take the footpath close by, follow it down, and it's called Day Spring. His family is now, obviously his wife is passed away, but his children now own that facility. So you can see a little bit of Bathurst history just a few hours down the road in St. Andrews. Sir James Dunn's philanthropy really knew no bounds. He has a residence at UNB, Sir James Dunn Residence, that bears his name. In the city or the town of St. Andrews, he actually put his name on the local vocational school. He put his name on the vocational school in a small town in Quebec, providing the funding for it. He has a number of scholarships still available to people dating back to the 1950s. Each year, there's major scholarships in the field of geology. Why geology? He was a financier, he was a shipbuilder, he was involved in steel production, but why geology? Well, this is another tie into the Bathurst area. One of the prospectors that came to Northern New Brunswick, the Bathurst area, in the 1950s found an interesting iron ore strike, yet he needed the necessary funding to push forward and to do more drilling. Remember, we don't have the equipment in the 1950s that we do now. Well, this geologist saw this prosperous opportunity but needed a supporter. Somehow, he was put in touch with Sir James Dunn. Sir James Dunn, remembering that he was actually a Bathurst boy, is instrumental in beginning the process of finding the big ore strike that is today we used as Brunswick Mines. Very interesting. That's a little bit about Sir James Dunn.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
My mother always tells me to smile and put on a happy face. Is it just me, or is it getting crazier out there? I used to think that my life was a tragedy, but now I realize it's a comedy.
It was back in '58. 7 of us were trapped together in the mine after the bump. We lay by a pipe to breathe. My leg was broken. Percy was dying beside me. But I said, "Come on, boys, the Lord is watching for us." And I started singing. Then we all sang. 8.5 days, no food. Even drank our own, you know. And I just happened to shout into that pipe when the dragomen were passing by. Some good folks in the U.S. gave all us survivors a free holiday in the South. Said I couldn't stay with the others because of my color. The boys were going to refuse, but I said no. We'll all have our holiday, then we'll be together again. And we were. 74 died in that bump, but that was life around the Spring Hill mines. Closed now. So much death. But my, didn't we sing those hymns together?
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Family, it's just extremely important. People move around. Connected for Success has just made it so much easier. For the longest time, I was on cloud nine. It connects you to family, it connects you to the outside world, and it makes you feel connected to the community. It was a whole new experience. You realize then how much you missed out. In fact, connect is my favorite word now. I love that word. Keeps me out of trouble.
Our telephone, teletype, and national television. From one end of the country to the other like that. 4,000 miles of microwave links, instead of thousands of tons of copper wire.
Yes, but $50 million, Mr. Deedy. Oh, my.
They also laughed at my experimental TV 20 years ago. Maybe they were right. But a single system for television and for telephones, that's the future. We're with you, Tom.
I don't have the people. You hire students, train them.
$20 million more, Tom. Maybe 10?
Here.
You need a cable car to get all that up there.
Cable car. That's great. We'll build a cable car.
In just 3 years, Tom Eady would complete the longest microwave network in the world.
Hello, this is Montreal. How may I help you? One moment, sir. We'll transfer you to Vancouver.
Our philanthropist, our investor, our great Bathurst citizen is well known for his investment in a company called Algoma Steel. Now, at the time in 1903, Algoma Steel was purchased by an American firm and was in receivership. It wasn't doing very well. It was at the verge of bankruptcy. But Sir James Dunn knew, with his British contacts, that war was in the horizon. Now, we are still talking 8 or 9 years away from actual discussion of war, but because he was so closely connected to the people in Europe, he knew that something would happen soon. During the times of war, we need a number of things. We need manpower, and we need steel. So his innovative thinking allowed him to purchase Algoma Steel. Now, at the time when he purchased it, he wasn't overly successful. There were a number of investors who screamed and cried about their lack of funding in terms of its return to them, and it went into receivership again. But Sir James Dunn didn't lose faith in this company. He managed to fund it himself and turn around and became the principal owner of a twice bankrupt company. Why would someone do that? Sir James Dunn felt that this was the step forward. Now, one of the things that he did, he invented or helped invent a process called sink float processing, which is a way of extracting the necessary ore from the rock, which made it cheaper to produce, and it produced a better steel. So again, we're not at the war years yet, but we're closing in on it, and Sir James Dunn knew that he could produce the best steel for the war effort. Now, with his connections in Europe, he began to see that the war years was going to need the steel. And lo and behold, as war crept into the picture, Sir James Dunn was standing there with all the necessary steel away from the war zone in Canada, ready to ship it to Europe. So, looking at how now do we get it to Europe? Well, Sir James Dunn certainly had an innovative way of doing it. Let's not hire a firm to ship the goods to Europe. Let's create our own firm. And much like what Casey Irving did 100 years later, they call it vertical integration, which is actually controlling the whole process of the industry you're in. And let's change that word to horizontal integration. And what that means is you're going to purchase and control all elements of the process to get to market. And that's exactly what he did. So he bought a steam line, the Canadian Steamship Company. So now he produced the iron, all the steel necessary for the war effort, and he controlled the shipping mechanism to get it to Europe. This is where our local boy became world-renowned. Many followed in his footsteps. As I said, Casey Irving used his model to create the empire that he has. And Sir James Dunn, a Bathurst boy, was actually the founder of this model.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Looking for great seats to all the action? Rogers Super Sports Pack delivers. With NBA League Pass, get up to 40 out-of-market games every week, all season long. More dunks, more slams, more to love, live in HD. NBA League Pass, part of the Rogers Super Sports Pack. All this for only $35.95 a month. Order through your remote on Channel 431 or call 1-888-ROGERS-1 today.
Hey, Gabe, we're supposed to be at City Hall. We're gonna build it right here. Yeah, sure. And give wetsuits to all the visitors? No, on the water. Hey, come on, we're talking about building something the size of 64 city blocks. And there's no land left in Montreal. So, get serious. Listen, we'll build islands. How? Dig up Montreal? They're digging a subway, remember? You take it from there, and you put it here.
12 months and 25 million tons of fill later, St. Helens Island was reshaped and Ile Notre Dame was created.
Come on. We don't want to keep Mayor Drapeau waiting, do we?
Montreal's Expo 67. It would prove to be the most successful World's Fair of the 20th century.
What's up, guys? Chris Dobson, Chris Corey here from New Brunswick's favorite sports show, Across the Line. We talk to everybody from football, golf, hockey, Hall of Fame. It doesn't matter. We always have a great time when we're here in studio, and hey, you never know who's going to drop by.
Hey, lots of celebrities, lots of New Brunswick's finest coming by the studio to talk sports, have a little fun with New Brunswick's favorite sports talk show, Across the Line, right here on Rogers TV.
My husband is a wonderful man and a great father when he's not drinking. I'm so angry he chooses alcohol over us. If he really loved us, he'd stop drinking, right? My counselor suggested I try Al-Anon. I didn't understand why. I'm not the one with the problem, but I'm glad I went. Do you worry about someone's drinking? You are not alone. Al-Anon or Alateen can help. Call 866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
C'était pas toujours facile pour les jeunes Islandais qui ont grandi avenue Sargent et dont personne ne voulait. Mais le hockey était notre jeu. On va aller se battre, George! Seulement si Connie s'enrôle aussi. Quand la guerre a commencé, ça a mis fin à l'équipe. On avait besoin de nous et on s'est battu. Ça nous a coûté cher. J'aime mieux pas penser au coût total. Mais je sais une chose. Pour ce qui est de se battre, on est là, pas vrai? Et on est capable de gagner ce match. Pour nous, pour le Canada, pour nos frères de l'avenue Sargent.
Les Falcons de Winnipeg se sont battus pour le Canada pendant la Première Guerre mondiale. 2 membres de l'équipe sont morts au combat. À son retour, le reste de l'équipe a gagné la toute première médaille d'or de hockey olympique.
So as the Algoma steel takes off, the war kicks into to operation. All the Allied countries need all the steel that can be produced. Certainly the Americans were in the field as well, producing the steel. But Sir James Dunn was at the top. He had the connections, Sir Max Aiken, Lord Beaverbrook, and he had the knowledge of how the British Empire worked. He was providing the steel. He was shipping it to market. So Sir James Dunn, a local boy, was at the forefront of the war effort. Because of this, now he was known as James Dunn at the time, because of this and because of his contributions to the British Empire, he was knighted in 1921 to become Sir James Dunn. So that's a brief history of his war years. Now, some of the investments that he's made over the years, he was very popular with South American investments. C.D. Howe looked to him for financial support in many investments. Van Horn, who was the president of CP Rail, who actually, if you remember the television show from the 70s, the last spike, which was the creation of the CP rail line right across Canada. Well, Van Horn was also responsible for other rail lines throughout the world. And where did his financing come from? Where was his investment? A little Bathurst boy, Sir James Dunn. So that's a little bit about his financial background. Now, one of the things that Sir James Dunn was known for was his philanthropy, and also some of his major contributions were in the field of art. He was close friends with many of the famous artists of the world. Unfortunately, over the years, the contributions that he made to the art field, all of the paintings, multi-million-dollar paintings, had to be sold in the flux of his financing business, where he lost and made money. So he sold many of his works, but then once he was back in the black, as they say, he refinanced and was able to get back into financing the purchase of paintings. So Salvador Dali was a personal friend of Sir James Dunn. Remember, he's a Bathurst boy.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
When you become a Rogers volunteer, it's always an opportunity for everybody to come together and try different things that they've never been able to do before.
What I've learned here is different skills that I thought I would never even be interested in learning.
By being here at Rogers, I can learn all these different things that will help me be stronger.
Working here as a volunteer is a good way to get to know your community. It's a good way to learn how to work as a part of a team.
They're people from our community, so they know and they have a heart for our community to step outside of our comfort zone and do more.
Don't be afraid, because this is where you're going to gain the most valuable experience that you can use in your future.
I encourage everybody to be a volunteer at Rogers TV because not only do you grow professionally, you grow personally as well.
Des dents? Non, la fée des pilules. La fée des pilules, ça existe, ça. Oui, puis t'en as clairement besoin d'une. C'est quoi, ça? C'était pour mon mal de dos. Ben, il a l'air allé mieux, ce dos-là. Ouais. Et si on se débarrassait de tous ces dangereux médicaments? Hé! Pense à nos amis les poissons. Faut que j'aille. Je dépose ça à la pharmacie, mais je veux pas avoir à revenir ici.
La fée des pilules n'existe pas. Rapportez vos médicaments à la pharmacie.
My mother